Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and they've done it again. This is the world's fastest OLED gaming monitor. It's ROG's brand new 27-inch 1440p OLED that supports up to 720Hz. Has Nvidia G-Sync, AMD FreeSync, a TrueBlack glossy screen, and the latest Tandem OLED tech giving us this incredible picture quality. So it's called the ROG PG27AQWP-W, and it is a beast of a screen that could even be the end game of monitors for some of you out there. Well, today I'm going to show you what this monitor can do, why you might need one, and how it looks on both the RTX 5080 and the PS5 Pro. So any questions you've got, just drop those below, otherwise let's just get this unboxed. Firstly, inside the box it comes with the usual accessories, including a black pouch which contains cables for the DisplayPort, USB, HDMI and a power cable. There's also a microfiber cloth, a manual and a guide on how to clean the screen, something that you guys always ask me about. Then there's the two-part stand where the main arm is light silver and plastic, whereas the feet are metal, and fitting it is just a case of slotting the arm onto the back of the monitor, sliding the feet on and screwing that into place. Now I often use the provided stands, but it does come with a VESA adapter too if you wanted to attach it to a monitor arm instead. Now we know this screen is already going to look incredible, but I have got to show you the back of this thing first. So instead of the usual all black and grey case, ROG have gone for this translucent and white design instead, and I am loving it. It's giving me old school N64 vibes where you used to be able to buy those clear crystal cases for it. But it's cool because you can literally see through to some of the components, and as far as rear designs go, this has got to be one of the nicest that we've ever seen. There's also the ROG logo and branding on the right side, which does also light up with RGB lighting as well. Now by default this is on, but you can of course switch it off in the settings if you'd prefer. Now it does come with the stand which has the metal feet and a plastic rear column, sticking with that light silver colour theme. It certainly gives it a nice contrast against my black desk, but I can imagine this looking really good in a white setup as well. But while we're back here, let me show you the ports real quick. So it comes with 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, a DisplayPort 2.1a, and a headphone jack, as well as a USB hub consisting of 4 USB ports. Oh, and there's also no power brick, just a cable straight into the monitor, which I always prefer. It takes up far less room, and you don't need to try and hide a brick under your desk, which is always a bonus. Flipping it around though, you will notice that the border of the screen is also light instead of black, and adds a silver border around your image. Then we still have the ROG chin at the bottom, which this time it is blue instead of red. Although like always you can turn the LED off in the settings if you'd prefer. Oh wow, this looks unbelievable. Now I did briefly see this on display at Gamescom back in August, but seeing it here now in the setup, the picture quality is incredible, especially for a 1440p display. In fact, on first impressions, this looks like it could be a 4K display with how sharp it is. But this is a 27-inch 1440p monitor that supports HDR and VRR, but that's nothing new. We've seen this on monitors for years. However, what makes this one special is the new Tandem OLED tech. This is the 4th gen WOLED, which is a game changer. It's something that we have been waiting for to appear on more screens in 2025, and it was definitely worth the wait. And that's because we're getting a 15% boost in peak brightness, a wider color volume of around 25%, and in my opinion, a far nicer picture quality overall. The image isn't just brighter in the whites either, we are talking the entire picture and colors are brighter too. Like here, you can see how the Fortnite image just pops right out of the screen like it is a painting. I've just not seen anything else like it. Now it does carry the DCI P3 of 99.5%, so that is a bump up from the previous models. Just to note though that I do have the energy saving mode off, brightness at 100% and HDR off at this point. So this is kind of the brightest that you will see this monitor. It also carries the display HDR of 500 TrueBlack rating, so both highlights and black levels are improved over the last gen monitors. And talking about the black levels, as that is still one of the biggest advantages of an OLED, we have got these perfect blacks. No blooming, no light bleed, and just pure black. And that is because this display is using the latest TrueBlack glossy coating. So we're getting zero haze, which is sometimes what we see on semi-glossy panels, and no smearing like we see on the anti-glare coatings. There's also no raised blacks like we get on QD OLED, so for me this is the best of both worlds. Honestly, the TrueBlack finish is the best you're going to see on a monitor right now, and I would compare it to something like the LG G4 or the G5 OLEDs, where the screen has a super dark tint. Although it's reflective, it's not quite as mirror-like as a typical OLED screen. But this finish definitely makes the colours look deep and almost wet looking, if that makes sense. Everything is super sharp too because there is no coating over the top. But one thing to mention though is the resolution and the quality of the image, because although this is only a 1440p screen and not 4K, the actual picture quality and the clarity of the image at this size is still very impressive. It's only when you look at the text clarity on Windows do you notice the text does look slightly blurry with some colour fringing, but this is something that you often see on a 1440p OLED when compared to 4K. Then we have the performance, which is like no other monitor you've seen. Firstly, you can run this monitor at 1440p for your AAA games like Cyberpunk or Spider-Man, where you're getting a nice 1440p resolution and up to 540Hz. I mean, there aren't that many games out there that will hit 540Hz, but the fact is you can if your PC and game supports it. I find games like the Finals or Valorant are great games for hitting some crazy high FPS figures. So here I've got a 1440p resolution, and in Windows I've enabled the 540Hz refresh rate so we can really test this thing out. I'm not gonna lie, but this is just ridiculously smooth. Like, I've tried a few different monitors over the last year or so, and a few of them have hit around 480Hz already, but it still amazes me how fast this is. It's the no blur, the no image trail, and the motion handling that impresses me the most. Even without enabling the boost mode, this is plenty fast enough for most of us and it looks awesome. But you can comfortably use it to play your story-driven games as well as your racing games at 1440p and 120Hz. Those games where you want a decent performance but you don't need to be hitting 300 plus FPS. But then we do have the Dual-Mode option, the feature that turns this monitor into an FPS powerhouse. If you toggle the frame rate boost option, it instantly switches over to an HD 720p mode that will now allow you to go up to 720Hz. That is insane. Of course, not every game is going to support 500 plus FPS, let alone 700. Even games like Battlefield and Call of Duty just won't hit those kind of figures. You're looking closer to 120 to 200 depending on your setup. But again, games like the Finals and Valorant are great examples of games that can hit ridiculously high FPS figures. And it helps that this monitor also has a rapid response time rated at 0.02 grey to grey, even quicker than the last gen. But playing games at 720p is rough on a 27-inch screen. Yes, we're seeing up to 720Hz on supported games, but I just can't. 1440p is my limit at this size, so I'm going to say it, 720Hz is cool and all, however I am sticking with 1440p at 540Hz. That is more than fast enough for 99% of us. But the cool thing is, if you want to, you can use the 720Hz mode as well. Now, although this is a 1440p monitor, you can still in fact receive a 4K resolution. So here I'm using the PS5 Pro at 4K, and as you can see here on screen, the panel itself is still receiving that 4K resolution. So although you might say it's wasted bandwidth or pixels, it saves you from messing around in the settings between games. And like with every other OLED monitor, the viewing angles on this are incredible. You can view this from anywhere in your setup, from any angle, and you're not going to lose any colour, brightness or clarity. I know we tend to watch these straight on, but it's still a nice advantage to have. Now, I did also mention earlier about the TrueBlack glossy coating, which is great for those black levels, clarity and reflections, but just to note though that you will still get reflections from the screen. Normal viewing is okay if you can manage your lighting, but place this opposite a window or a light source and you are going to see it. There's also a few other things worth mentioning about this monitor. There are no speakers, but there is a 3.5mm headphone jack if you want to plug in your headphones, although most of us probably have a dedicated headset already. The settings menu and the UI is pretty much the same that we've seen on all ROG monitors over the last few years. Not very inspiring to look at, but it has loads of settings in here that are worth tweaking and playing around with. Things like OLED care, screensavers, game modes for enabling things like the FPS counter or crosshair on screen, and you can also turn things like the power indicator LED off. So if you don't like that blue logo, you can go full on stealth mode instead. Now this monitor does come with a 3-year warranty, which does also protect you against OLED burn-in. Now, from my few weeks with it, I've not personally found any issues with the screen. As far as 27-inch OLED monitors go, this definitely is the best looking WOLED screen that I've ever used. But it's not 4K though, so if you're chasing that ultra sharp resolution, you might find the text clarity a little softer by comparison. But for gaming, zero issues at all. Now, this monitor was loaned to me for review, not paid or sponsored, and I will need to give it back next week. And unfortunately, at the time of creating this video, I had no word on the cost of this, so it was hard to know if it's value for money or not. I would say if it's under $900, it is an absolute steal. But I think it's going to be around $1,200, but we'll have to see. Would I buy it though, or would I recommend buying one? Well, if you're looking for the fastest 27-inch OLED gaming monitor in the world, or you need more than that 500Hz refresh rate, this is the only one you can go for. Plus, you're getting 540Hz at 1440p, 720Hz at 720p, and the new Tandem OLED tech. So you're not just getting a fast monitor, you are getting one with a super bright and colourful picture. Sure, I'd like to see this with a 4K panel, but at this size, 1440p really is more than enough most of the time. And what do you think to it? Do you think the Tandem OLED tech is a step in the right direction? And would you go for silver, or would you hold off to see if they do a black version instead? Now drop a nice OLED in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my PS6 video next, as it covers everything we know so far, including my wish list of features. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and follow me everywhere. Until next time.